There is so much going on, I couldn't possibly stay away for another second. Welcome to a midweek report, but since we're really here to talk about our feelings, welcome to a full-on Notsam Wrestling emergency podcast because we have feelings. Now look, so much has happened, as I said, since we spoke on Monday. At some point, we got to talk about all the TNA stars that are invading NXT and the fact that Joe Hendry is a main eventer in NXT. At some point, we got to talk about that scene of Bo Dallas sitting in Adam Pearce's office and what that meant. The fact that the Punk and Seth Rollins seeds that were already planted, I would argue, have officially been watered. The fact that Joe Tessitore has been announced as coming over to the WWE announce team, but today, on this emergency podcast, on this show that's all about our feelings, we got to talk about mommy coming home. We have to talk about the return of Rhea Ripley. So this was one that I think was the right mix of, we know it's probably going to happen, but we don't know that it is going to happen. Meaning that I didn't see, and maybe it was just off my radar, but I didn't see like a ton of dirt sheets or anything like that saying this is the day, this is the Monday night, Rhea Ripley's coming back. But as soon as they announced that Zelina Vega and Rey Mysterio versus Dominik and Liv Morgan in a mixed tag was not only going to be on Raw, when they said this is happening on Raw, I was like, okay, that's interesting. When they said it's going to main event, I went, okay, this is interesting. When they started, like, throughout the entire show, going to break with like those kind of warm-up spots. You know, you'd see Rey Mysterio doing his wrist tape or getting his gloves on or whatever. You'd see all this stuff, and you're hyping up, because that's usually, right, there's multiple arcs going on throughout the show. But generally speaking, the main event, if it's something big, is something that is being planted throughout. So it's like if you just tune in at 8 o'clock, they're going, yeah, I know you've been watching for a while, but trust us, you're going to want to stay till the end. And so I go, okay, the fact that we're now one day removed from Money in the Bank, SummerSlam is the next pay-per-view, the fact that this is main eventing, and then we start getting those Judgment Day hints being dropped by Damian Priest, you know, who is he on the phone with? The one segment where he goes, they go, Priest, I thought you had something to tell us. And he goes, I'm just going to let Dominik find out there. You're like, oh, please tell me. Please tell me. Because there were a couple of moments that really made it seem like we were getting to the point of we were approaching the point of no return with Rhea Ripley and Dominik Mysterio. You know, when we were first talking about all of this happening, and the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour, and the idea of a custody of Dominik Mysterio match being played out once again at SummerSlam. It was all much more cut and dried than it actually has been, which is to credit the storytelling that's going on in WWE. It was like, okay, Rhea Ripley gets injured, then Liv Morgan has an affair with Dominik, and then Rhea and Liv fight for Dominik. And it's like, not quite. Because Liv and Dominik never had the affair. It was this cat and mouse game that was being played out the entire time, where Liv Morgan was making no secret about the fact that she was trying to take Daddy Dominik for herself. And Dominik Mysterio was doing that dude thing where technically he didn't cross the boundary that you cannot return from. Technically, he didn't do the things that you're specifically and expressly not supposed to do. But when you watch the actions, you go, but he didn't not do them. He wasn't exactly fighting this thing off. And it goes back to even Monday night when Liv and Dominik are having their training session, which tag teams do. I think I saw the Road Warriors do this exact same stretch, to be fair, before a lot of their matches. But Liv Morgan, of course, getting that leg way up in the air and really stretching out Dominik's hamstring like a good tag team partner should do. But what I thought was great about this scene, and it really, because there was some conversation I don't know if I go as far to say criticism, but at least conversation. Conversation is good about whether or not this storyline harkens back to the sort of attitude era too much, where it's these sort of, physically, sexually charged stories concerning women. But I was always of the opinion that this story is the exact opposite. The power dynamic in the Liv Morgan, Dominik Mysterio story has been completely flipped from what we would have seen in the Attitude Era. And this scene, in and of itself, showcased that the most clearly. That you've got a scene that I feel like, as a fan who's been watching for decades, immediately when I saw it, I said, oh, this is Triple H and Trish. It harkens back to Triple H and Trish getting ready in the back, except Triple H is the one that's got Trish in a compromised position. And then Stephanie or whoever walks in and Triple H looks shocked. I think we all remember this clip. The roles are reversed now, where Liv Morgan is the one that's got Dominik in this position. And I think that is a key element to this entire story, that this is everything has all been a game that Liv Morgan has been in control of the entire time. So the Judgment Day, they have this, hilarious interaction where first they're all stopping and Dominik turns around. He sees his entire faction there looking at him going like, what? We're just stretching. You guys don't stretch? Friends listen to Endless Love in the Dark? What? And Damian, where he would usually have this strong objection, have you spoken to Rhea Ripley yet? What are you doing? Was almost like, okay, all right. Like he had this trick up his sleeve, and that's when he said, I'll let Dominik find out there. So they go out there and they win their match after Liv Morgan does the old Dominik Mysterio throwing the chair in the ring, and they celebrate. And Dominik is overcome with emotions. He hugs Liv Morgan because, and this is key, and I hope that he brings this up on Monday when Rhea Ripley has a problem with it, for the first time, Dominik pinned his father. Dominik Mysterio pinned Rey Mysterio for the first time. They've had, I think they've had just the 2 one-on-one matches. Rey has won both. So the fact that Dominik finally got to pin his deadbeat dad, thanks to help from Liv Morgan, has left Dominik overcome with joy. He hugs Liv and then immediately backs off. He knows this is wrong. Until Liv pounces upon our mulleted superhero and drags him down to the ground with him on top of her. And just as we're at this moment where it seems like Dominik, virtuous man that he is about to succumb to the advances of Liv Morgan, just as it looks like Dominik is starting to lean in, boom, Rhea Ripley's music hits. And here comes Mommy. Mommy's home. This amazing reaction that the crowd has, because it's not just the return of one of the biggest stars in the WWE. It's not just the return of a superstar that fans have been wanting to see, have been waiting to come back. It's the payoff. It's the story. They're not just invested in Rhea Ripley as a wrestler coming back because they love seeing Rhea Ripley matches. That's part of it. This story doesn't work with other players involved. But you can hear it. There's an audible reaction. This, yeah, oh. Because we've all been so engrossed in the soap opera that has been Dominik and Liv Morgan. So as much as we're excited to see Rhea Ripley back, we're also excited that we're going to finally get Rhea's reaction to this soap opera, this telenovela that we've been following so closely. And of course, Liv Morgan powders immediately. She gets out of Dodge before Rhea Ripley can get to her. And Dominik, he's looking down like a child, like a small child. He's looking at the ground. like not like an adult man, but like a small child who knows he's in trouble. Oh, gee, Mom, I'm sorry. And Rhea picks his chin up and makes him look at her. And he goes, what? What? And then Rhea walks off. She's done with him, and Dominik follows Rhea out. Come on, come on, come on. Now, I think there's a couple of things to consider here. Number one was the reaction to the other parties involved, right? They posted them on social media that Liv Morgan, wherever she went to, she found a little curtain hole to watch through so she could see this all play out. And Liv Morgan, although she looked scared when Rhea Ripley came back, she looked so humored and utterly satisfied by the results of what had just happened. As if watching Rhea Ripley interact with Dominik was like, isn't it beautiful when a plan comes together? Everything that she wanted to happen was playing out just as she wanted it to happen. And it'll be interesting to see if she's able to maintain the same level of control now that Rhea Ripley is back. But ultimately, the goal was never to woo Dominik and you know, create this amazing romance for all the ages. The goal was so that Rhea Ripley came back and she and Dominik were no longer together. And Liv Morgan has put things into a position where Rhea can't, because even if you're like, well, Dominik never crossed the line, and I will continue, by the way, every time somebody puts a microphone in front of my face to advocate for Dominik Mysterio, to make sure that people know he did not cross the line. At the same time, was clearly Rhea Ripley's enemy number one. Clearly the person who, much like Drew McIntyre celebrated the injury of CM Punk, Liv Morgan celebrated the injury of Rhea Ripley. That's your homegirl, and you're celebrating with the woman who celebrated her injury. That's a problem in and of itself, even without all the other soap opera chicanery that surrounds it. So you had Liv Morgan looking satisfied, which was not a surprise. But then you had Damian Priest. And Damian Priest was watching the monitor and seeing Rhea Ripley upset with Dominik. And he said, consequences, which is, again, going back to there are a lot of parallels between the CM Punk, Drew McIntyre story and the Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley story. And maybe Drew McIntyre is there playing that Seth Rollins third-party role that is undeniably connected to all of it. But Damian Priest is not doing anything to try to keep the Judgment Day together. Damian Priest is taking joy in the fact that Dominik is getting in trouble. There's nothing about what's going on between, like, if you're friends with a couple and they're you catch half of a couple that you're friends with both of them and they're doing the wrong thing and you get excited that they're about to get caught by their significant other, you're not friends with those people. You could say, well, no, because I'm just friends with her. No, you're not, dude. You want pain. You want conflict. That's not a good quality. That's not a good quality at all. So where do we think this is going? Well, I think clearly, I would imagine Rhea Ripley is going to be cleared by SummerSlam. If not, it's still possible to play this out. I mean, think about it, right? With Liv Morgan's title reign, you had her defeating Becky Lynch, which is a big win. She defended against Zelina, but really this title reign has been more about this story and not necessarily about matches taking place in the ring. So even if Rhea Ripley wasn't to be cleared by SummerSlam, there is still outside of the ring story to tell, but I have to imagine if they're bringing her back and everything, there's something about Rhea Ripley that you want to see her lay a beating on somebody. So I would imagine we're going to see a beating get laid. But I don't think that it's going to be as cut and dry. Like, I don't think on Monday you're going to get Rhea Ripley going, okay, Dominik, you're out of here. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I think this is still a story that's going to take place over time. And ultimately, that story is the disintegration of the Judgment Day. I don't think at SummerSlam, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan is going to be a Dominik Mysterio custody match. Because Rhea Ripley is pissed at Dominik Mysterio, so why would she fight for his custody? And Liv Morgan, based on her reaction to what we saw, is clearly just using Dominik Mysterio to get at Rhea Ripley and has no actual affection for the guy, which I don't understand at all if it's true. But with that being the case, how is that the prize? It's almost like whoever wins the match gets the prize and then throws the prize out. It doesn't really make sense. I think instead what you're going to see leading up to SummerSlam is the Judgment Day still together. And I think you're going to see Liv Morgan still trying to get involved with Dominik Mysterio's business. But ultimately, the conflict and the struggle of keeping the Judgment Day together is going to be what this is all about. Now, you have to be really careful with Damian Priest, because the way that Money in the Bank and his match with Seth Rollins ended did not leave people going, oh, this is like the top good guy of the century, right? It just wasn't the reaction based on stuff that was controlled and stuff that wasn't under control, The referees count going to 3 and Priest not kicking out wasn't helpful, and the Drew McIntyre thing. So storyline stuff and non-storyline stuff left people going, this is not a top babyface champion right now. I still think that has to be where we're going, unless there's going to be some swerve, and there could be. But I feel like, a lot of people have said that, what the dirt sheets are saying is Rhea Ripley is now listed internally under the babyface column. Like, some things we don't need a special dirt sheet report on. If you've watched wrestling leading into WrestleMania, coming out of WrestleMania, and this entire story, the idea that Rhea Ripley is a babyface is not news. Okay, this is something we know. As a matter of fact, we talked about it on the podcast, that Rhea Ripley is going to win at WrestleMania, and she will be a confirmed babyface at that point, because she's already pretty much a babyface going in to WrestleMania. So this was, you can either read dirt sheets, or you could just listen to us, and we'll tell you about 6 months before. So I do think that would have been probably a little bit more clear had Rhea Ripley not getting injured. I think that the injury kind of extended the timeline. But I think this will lead to SummerSlam. I think that the Judgment Day remains fairly intact. I think that's the way I would do it, I guess. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It may not happen. But I would probably keep the Judgment Day intact. As Dominik never crossed the line, the relationships between Liv and Dom, between Dom and Rhea, nothing has ever been written in stone as to what this is and, quite frankly, what the rules are. So I don't think this is just a kick to the curb situation. And we didn't see that on Raw, like an immediate kick to the curb. We just saw Rhea Ripley expressing her anger. I think going into SummerSlam, you got a fairly big Judgment Day representation. I think you've got Rhea Ripley going for the Women's Championship. I think you got Damian Priest defending the Men's Championship. I think that Damian Priest will lose the title at SummerSlam to Gunther. And I think once Damian Priest loses the title to Gunther, that's when the Judgment Day turns on him. I think the way I would probably do it is Dominik Mysterio does some weird stuff during the Rhea Liv match. Rhea wins. Although maybe no, I think in this instance, Rhea wins. She gets her title back. And it's that sort of weird interference thing again, only this time in reverse. Where Rhea's like, she wins because of Dominik's interference, but it really seems like Dominik was intending for Liv to use the interference against Rhea. So that's where I have Rhea winning the championship. And I have Damian Priest losing clean to Gunther. And then the next night on Raw is when maybe the Judgment Day beats down Damian Priest. The way years ago, it seems like at this point, I don't know exactly how long, it has to be over a year, the Judgment Day beat down Edge and threw him out of the group. This time, the Judgment Day beats down Damian Priest, except Rhea attempts to stop the breakdown and ends up siding with Priest, while the Judgment Day is now Dominik Mysterio, Finn Balor, and JD McDonough. and you end up going towards a rivalry between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. Now, I don't know where this leaves Dominik, right? I don't know if you have, because do you have Liv Morgan come in and lead the Judgment Day? Do you go further with the story that maybe Finn Balor and Liv Morgan had something going on the whole time? Do you send Dominik Mysterio in a completely new direction? Because Dominik Mysterio is the GOAT. He's the best right now. So the last thing you want to do is create this story where you don't have anything for Dominik on the other side of it. So does he go into a completely different space, maybe even ends up on SmackDown with Tiffany Stratton or something like that, and have the Judgment Day be Finn, JD, and Liv Morgan, and they're feuding with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley? I don't know. There's a lot of directions this could all go in. I'm very excited about all of it. I love that we had about, whatever it was, 90 seconds of interaction, 90 seconds of Rhea Ripley on screen, and we've already got enough feelings that I got to take the siren out, even, a day and a half after it's happened. I appreciate you being here for this. This is all fun. Make sure that you've ordered your Notsam Wrestling merch. We only got a week left on it. Go to notsam.com and then click on the store link. Make sure if you're in Cleveland, you're coming to see the live Notsam Wrestling podcast at Hilarities. That's the Thursday before SummerSlam, Thursday night, 7:30 show. You can go to notsam.com for the tickets link as well. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.